There's a point when I see certain rituals manifesting the desired change, and it's way beyond what I thought I was even capable of. There have been times when I've used magic to heal people who otherwise would have died. There have been situations where I've changed the fates of countless people through a single ritual. And then there have been times when I've stretched out my left hand and I've destroyed life. Those are usually the most psychologically disturbing. I don't mean that placing curses disturbs me in the normal sense of the word. It doesn't necessarily make me contemplate my own evil nature or reconsider my stance on karma as being a self-created phenomenon. I more mean that sometimes when I place a curse and it results in something that's terrifyingly powerful, it makes me realize how much power I can really channel. And it's a little scary. There is one curse that I've come across that is more insidious than any other that I've ever used. I think that it's so shocking to me, not because it causes such a quick death of your enemies, but actually because it works so deeply and it causes such an intense degree of suffering in your victim that other spells and curses just can't match. Now, before I get into the specifics of the curse, I know that a lot of you may have never worked with magic before, never really cast spells or curses or anything like that. You really ought to check out my ebook, Become a Living God. It really will walk you through a lot of the basics. I'll give you several types of rituals and spells that you can use, including some powerful curses, love spells, and prosperity rituals. So now, a couple years ago, I had an enemy who was moving against me, actually trying to destroy me in every way. He was relentless and needed to be dealt with. I sought out the advice of a black witch, a dark sorceress, trained in the rites of Pombagira, an Umbanda goddess of passion, sexuality, and death. I had witnessed before the power of this witch's spells, having seen her work the miraculous and the diabolical many times before. "You need to stop your enemy's feet," she told me. I was sure that something must have been lost in the translation from her native Catalonian. "When your enemy is moving against you," she explained to me, "the only way to stop him is to stop his feet." This seemed like a great metaphor. Stopping his feet is like a binding ritual that keeps him from moving against you, right? Now, these are the implements that she told me to gather. They're pretty simple. You can collect most of them yourself around town, really. You're going to need a small wooden or cardboard box. I found that a standard shoe box works just perfect for this ritual. You're going to need a photograph of the victim. You're going to need a yard or two of black ribbon and a pair of chicken feet. Now, the chicken feet were pretty easily obtained at a local meat shop, a carniceria. The Latino fellows working at the butcher's counter raised their eyebrows as I came in asking for chicken's feet, trying to mumble in Spanish the best I could. But they were happy to get me out of their shop quickly, and so they gave me the feet and kind of rushed me out the door. Now, the Black Witch gave me these instructions that are going to follow. Of course, these are the bare minimum, so I'm going to elaborate on them in a minute. First, you're going to write the name and the birthday of the victim on the back of the photograph. You're going to hold the photograph against both of the chicken feet, face out, and wrap them together onto the photograph with a third of the black ribbon. So you're going to cut a third of it off and wrap the photograph to the chicken's feet. You're going to place this bundle in the shoebox, and you're going to tie the box together with the remaining black ribbon. You're going to bury the box 3 feet into the ground at a crossroads or in a cemetery. Now, as you leave the area, do not look back at the burial site. Okay, now let me explain all of this really quick so I can hopefully make it a bit more practical and more potent for you by filling in the details that most ritual instructions like these leave out. The photograph, name, and the birthday of the victim obviously form a link to the victim. That's spellcasting 101. The chicken feet not only serve the sympathetic link for the victim's psychic feet, but also have a massive spiritual significance. I'm going to go into these sort of sympathetic magical fetish items that are going to be in several of the spellcasting courses that I put together as Become a Living God pushes forward. Now, when you wrap the feet to the photograph, you don't just go through the motions. That's just folk magic, and it's really far from effective. Instead, as you wrap the chicken feet and the ribbon and the photograph together, you're going to visualize as clearly as you can your enemy becoming completely immobilized, unable to attack you anymore. The more clearly you can visualize this, the better. Now, what's going on here is a process called transubstantiation. We're taking one substance or material and altering the significance or the inherent meaning of the item, astrally turning it into another substance altogether. Essentially, you're taking chicken feet, a photograph, some writing on it, and some ribbon, and we're transmuting it into the living force of destruction to visit our enemies. When you tie the box closed and when you bury it, visualize again as clearly and forcefully as possible that it's not the bundle you've tied in the box, but your victim. Again, this provides the necessary transubstantiation. Now, the part about not looking back, this is something that hardly anyone ever talks about. I know this is because, I think that this is because a lot of people just don't know about it, and those who do know about it just don't understand it. Regardless, it is an integral part of a good deal of ancient spellcasting rituals. And when you walk away from the ritual site, you're going to automatically want to look back. It's just human nature. We want to see the effects of the mysterious and sometimes dark deeds that we do. This desire is multiplied several times over when you're given the command to do not look back. It's like telling somebody, whatever you do, do not push this red button. You're going to push it. However, if you fight through the desire to look back and you simply walk away from the ritual, you're going to have instantly divorced yourself from the desire for the outcome to a degree that most magicians simply can't. You're telling the spirits, I've called you, I've given you a task, and now I trust you to do it. Not looking back is a huge signal to yourself that you don't need validation. All you need is success. The interesting part of this curse, it works slowly. The victim suddenly has every situation in their lives turn against them so intensely that they don't even have the time or the energy to focus on you. So the initial problem of them moving against you is solved. But that's not where it stops. Your victim's problems will continue to grow, often resulting in massive health deterioration over the next year, along with severe psychological issues. Your victim will also suffer financial devastation, will quickly find themselves friendless. Even their own families are going to refuse to comfort them through the darkest hours. Suicide attempts are very common when I've used this curse, but they're never successful. The spirit won't let the victim die without suffering as much as possible. Often their suffering will drag on for years before they die. So, stopping their feet isn't nearly as symbolic as I had originally assumed. All in all, this is without a doubt the most insidious curse that I've ever placed. Your enemy becomes immobilized so they can no longer attack you, and then is buried alive by every form of suffering imaginable, spending sometimes years in agony before dying. Obviously, we don't want to throw these sorts of curses around at everyone who offends us, but when an enemy needs to be stopped and their venom needs to be returned to them, it's nice to know that we have a weapon like this in our arsenal. We'll talk again soon.